Yes. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, you know, the,
Still believing, still
yeah,
surviving. So thank you so much for accepting, this invitation to another chapter of this podcast that I created during this coronavirus, time in order to, connect with, creatives that I admire for what they're doing, their work, their legacy, their work with the community. And, I think your group is one of those that I really, point out as people who have been, doing a lot of stuff, right? Lately.
oh,
So,
thank you.
for my pleasure. For people who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself? I would say that you are, how can I talk about you? I've been thinking about it. I think you are, a really impressive creative with a lot of talents and, yeah, a lot of future. I see,
Oh,
you are like a person who has a big future. I don't know
uh,
why.
Thank you, Dr. Eva. No, I'm a dancer. I'm a choreographer. Um, I am an adjunct professor at FIU. I am mostly interested in the body, and I'm also really interested in expanding the definitions that we have around dance, especially especially arguments about who should be dancing and who should not be dancing, because I feel like dance is in everyone. So that's what we strive for in the collective, is moving towards broadening those definitions of dance. So
Why
dancer.
dance? How come dance came to your life?
Oh, well, my my mom took tap when I was young.
Oh,
So
nice.
I mean, I guess that was the thing back then. I'm 32 now, so we're talking like this was then. Um, I was so we're talking like 20 25 years ago. Um, you know, this was before, I guess, Zumba was as popular. So she would go take these adult tap classes, and I would go with my dad to the bar, and we would hang out for my mom and wait till she was done with her tap. And I'd watch my dad play pool, um, and then one day I asked my dad if I could just stay with my mom and watch her take class. And I liked it so much that I wanted to participate. Did I get? I think I might have gotten disconnected.
No, you're
Or do
fine
you still
from
see
this
me?
side.
Okay, sorry. There was like a pop up. So yeah, it was my mom that started me dancing first with tap, and then when she passed away, my dad um, took me to Miami City Ballet. So I got like I guess more interested in ballet at that point. Um, but I've always uh, done a lot of different styles, like growing up as like in recreational dance studios in Opelika in North Miami. It was um, ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, doing competitions and stuff like that. But I never
What?
thought that dance would be like my career. I thought that I was going to become like an attorney or something.
A dancing attorney. That would have been
Yeah,
good. Providing
yeah,
law with a little bit of a dance.
dancing around the issues.
So, tell me, where are you from? Are you originally from Miami?
Yes, born and
One
raised
of
in
those,
Miami.
one of those
Yeah,
rare species that are born and raised in Miami.
yeah. My
Ah,
parents too. My
oh
parents
yeah?
also, yeah, South Miami. Yeah,
Wow.
near like Tamiami. And
So, how
yeah.
do you see that your work or what you do is contributing to the transformation, let's say, of Miami culture, of the Miami cultural life?
Oh, I don't know. I think we are a different voice than what is normally heard, and we uh, do not shy away from important topics and from controversial things and from discomfort. And I think that the majority of dance communities tend to favor uh, different realities, realities where everybody looks the same and they're fairies and handsome princes, and that's just not the reality that I'm interested in. So I think we bring something very different to the table as far as an arts organization that is using dance, which is in itself a very political thing because it involves the body, and we're politicizing it even more.
I love this topic of body as a political, space.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit. Why do you think the body is a political space?
Um, I don't know. And this. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think um, like we see so many acts of hate and so many things that are said with hatred. And the one thing that is always had in common is like the hatred is directed towards the body. It is directed towards the skin, towards the color, um, towards towards race, and is like it doesn't have to do with their beliefs. It doesn't have to do with what type of person they are. And for something to discredit all those things and only focus on the body we're born into, is that's pretty scary. That and that means that individually we each wield an incredible amount of power, because only things like that can make someone hate so much.
I asked this question about the body, the relationship with the body to other dancers, and I am fascinated with the relationship with the body that we have in American culture.
Yeah.
It's a big enigma for me because I think a lot of what people do or not do has to do with how connected or disconnected they are with their body. So we are, right? What do you think? Like when, let's say in your classes or in your practice, how do you absorb this dilemma, or this relationship, right? Of
Yeah, you're right.
be who more in tune to who we are, our nature, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. That it we have such a unique relationship to our body. And you mentioned like America's obsession with the body, and I believe it's uh, it's maximized that by dance. The dance, and it stems a lot from classical dance, like in particular ballet, which is in itself elitist and supporting of racist values, and or I mean they can't be values if they're racist, but just racist beliefs, and it's that's what, like, the sacrifices that someone would have to make to be a ballet dancer, to be rail thin, and that you have to have a certain anatomy, but I don't believe that anatomy should predict someone's destiny, and
Right.
anatomy alone is not the thing that measures a dancer, in my opinion. So I I think I mean there's no single aesthetic for a beautiful dancing body. I mean there are other attributes, right? Like that ability to expand, ability to contract, ability to take on different rhythms and have musicality and dynamic, and those are the things that we measure dance with, but not with the body that the dance is coming from, because I mean that body is a sacred one. So yeah, I think that that's an
And I think your company is an example because I see that there's a diversity of people, and I love that you work with you know, people that belong to vulnerable communities, right? Like Black people, like handicapped, right? And I think it's so beautiful that, you know, in these pieces that you are distributing in video, the fact that we can see that dancing is beyond what our understanding is, right? It's a matter of relationship with bodies. It's a matter of expression.
Yeah.
And this piece in particular, can you please talk a little bit about this piece where you have this dancing collaboration with this woman who is handicapped?
Yes. So Marjorie Lane Burnett is the performer, and we collaborated together. And together, the piece is called Gimpgate, and it was the first time that I ever had the opportunity to work with someone living with a disability. Um, and Karen Peterson, who's had her dance company for over 30 years, works, their entire mission is dedicated to physically integrated dance, right? Dance for people with and without disability. So I guess, so my collective is relatively, we're new, we're emerging. We haven't, uh, we didn't have her experience, and she commissioned me to make a duet between Marjorie and myself. And I think we had 19 rehearsals, um, and the majority of those rehearsals were all things that didn't end up making it into the work. It we couldn't figure out what the piece was about. We spent a lot of the rehearsal process just playing, getting to know each other, asking questions. I think that's probably was like the most important thing about like our relationship, was like there was an understanding that neither of us was trying to offend. So like questions that were asked were for gaining a better understanding, getting to understand each other's unique bodies. Um, but I did know that I had done a lot of research about physically integrated dance. And so I had a very strong opinion in my mind of what I didn't want it to be. I had seen some pretty bad dances with people in wheelchairs where the person not in the wheelchair was treating them like a prop, where it became more about the relationship between the able-bodied person and the wheelchair than the dancer in the wheelchair. So like one of the first decisions that we made together was to completely remove her chair from the equation. So from the very beginning of the piece, she comes on stage in her power wheelchair, but then I help her get out of it, and we proceed for the rest of the dance without the chair. So in my mind at the time, I wasn't thinking it was particularly creative. I just thought that it was my way of making sure I didn't make the same mistakes that I had seen. And by removing the wheelchair, I was removing some of those variables. But now looking back, I also see how it's was incredibly important for us to do that. I believe like in all the time that Marjorie has been a dancer, which I think is 30 years that Marjorie's been a dancer. Yeah, because she started in her early 20s and she's in her early 50s now. But in all that time, there were rare times in other dances where she got out of her chair. So it was just really cool that we were able to do a dance that was completely without it from start to
finish. Such a powerful piece, you know, and the I would say you establish like a dialogue with her that
Mhm.
is really, authentic. I really love it. It's I cannot even describe it with words. That's how good for me it is. Let me ask you something else. I know your company is has been kind of new, but it's emerging. How long have you been? How long was have you been doing your work with this company, and what do you foresee with it? What are your purpose with it?
So I started choreographing in like 2010, 2011, but I didn't create like a more formal idea of a company, meaning that I work and I develop a relationship with a distinct group of dancers. And I work like outside of those dancers too, but I do have like 8 dancers that I work with the most. And they're the ones that we're working together on our new project. And we established Pioneer Winter Collective as a nonprofit in 2016. So I like to think of it as like in 2016 was when I said, okay, I'm officially running a company. I'm not doing like so many project-based things that I'm trying to do a 1 year or 2 year project. Um,
Mm.
and doing more programs than just like my own choreography, but also doing uh, uh, more workshops or doing like grass stains, which is our site-specific initiative, um, and not only focusing on what's in the theater.
Tell me, I really love as you know, the inside projects, right? I had the opportunity to witness 2 of them, and I really enjoy it, particularly because I think you grasp so well the relationship with the space. The dancers were so doing their thing, but at the same time showing us the possibilities of the space. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I've never, see
Yeah.
that before.
I mean, the credit's really due to the choreographers because I produce grass stains, but I commission
Mm.
choreographers. I remember you went to go see Sandra Portal Andros performance at the Hialeah Park Studios, and that
Yeah.
was that was in mid-December, and then in early December was Leonie Garcia's performance Plaza, and that was at a warehouse, a produce warehouse in Alapata. So the credit really goes to Sandra and Leonie, and then also they were mentored at the time by Stephen Koplowitz, who is a really well-acclaimed choreographer based out of Los Angeles, um, who I met just by like calling him and saying, "Hey, like I have this idea, would you be the mentor for it?" Because he did so much site work himself, and and that's sort of how we started working together.
Can you please explain a little bit what inside work means? So side
Yeah.
work.
So there are different levels of site work, but the uh, like the most basic definition would be like anything that's not in a traditional per- performance or dance space, like dancing um, in a backyard, dancing on a porch, dancing in the street, dancing on an airplane. Um, and then there's just nothing to that though. So then you can go a little bit deeper and you can say, well, what about if it's um, site adaptive, where you create a site work for, let's say, a fountain, and then that site work can be performed around this fountain, but it can also be performed around that fountain and then that fountain. But there's nothing really unique to each fountain. It's all treated as if it were the same. Site specific, something that is truly one of a kind, would mean that the dance can only exist in that space. And so that's what we really strive for with grass stains. And that, I think, that's what was accomplished by Leonie and by Sandra, is that like they were creating dances that were completely unique to that location. everything from their treatment of like the entry or the welcome to the course that they take throughout, how they decide to lead the audience through, um, uh, to using items that are only found in that location, right? Using like the boxes of fruit that were actually there in the warehouse, or uniforms that are actually worn by by the people that work in the warehouse during the day, or using like the ticket counters at the racetrack. Those are all things that are very unique to those locations. Um, and in some cases, like I'm thinking about Nurka Marquez's ofrenda, that was 2000. That was October of 2016. I believe it was October 30th, and that was one of the most memorable pieces for me. But that space has completely changed. I think after a hurricane, right? Like the ceiba tree is not the same. That entire plaza is different. So that was a moment in time that we won't be able to repeat again. That's also part of what makes it so beautiful.
I know, right? It's contingent, right? Kind of. Tell me, what do you see the main challenges forward thinking, that the pandemic and the, civic crisis that we're living poses to your creative work, to the group?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that's felt in the dance community is just that inability to be close, and I've been reading a lot of articles about like companies in Europe that have reopened to have class, to have rehearsal, even to have performances. And we haven't yet reached that point in the United States, in Florida, in Miami-Dade, for that to even be like a next week or a next month thing. And it's scary because it sets up this this indefiniteness where you don't it's I was talking to someone and I told them that this is like an endurance performance or a durational performance. I once held up a very heavy glass shelf in North Carolina in Greensboro at this residency called Elsewhere. And I held it up for 13 hours. And even that was easier than what this feels like, because with that, at least I knew that by 9:30 p.m. it would be over. And with this, there's no
no end.
Yeah,
not ending time.
It makes planning very difficult, and then also like you were asking earlier, you said like, why dance? I mean, like dance is like is a better language to me than English, like, so I feel incredibly paralyzed or like stifled right now because the language that I best express myself with is one that I can't use right now, or at least I can't use it in the way that I'm used to using it. And of course,
these are the moments where creativity is so important. That is why I'm asking people, like, it's a challenge. We are forced to rethink our ways of thinking, being, related with the world. That is why it's so interesting for me, so fascinating.
Yeah.
And we are all in the same, unpredictability, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are your plans? What are your plans? How do you, I mean, if you have any, what are your strategies?
Well,
what are you thinking?
We are going to start back with some physically distanced outdoor, not even rehearsals, just like, let's just move together. Let's just, be in each other's company. and then with like because of COVID, the project premiere date has been moved. It was originally going to premiere October of 2020. Now it's going to premiere September of 2021. So that's an 11-month um, maximization of time that we have, like, so I'm trying to reframe it for myself, that this will be the most time we've ever had to work on a piece. Um, and that's still not very long. Like 2 years is still not an extremely long time when you're talking about making a full-length work. But we're so used to doing it like in 3 or 4 months that this is very new to us. But with the extra time, I want us to create a series of 8 choreo portraits. So we'll have like a dance on film, except only like solos, only focused on one dancer at a time. And just use them as like studies or almost biographies for each of the 8 performers. Actually, we might do it with all collaborators, so it could end up being like 10 or 11 short videos, and playing with time and also playing with scale are 2 of the things I really want to just enjoy with these and with the extra time. And who knows how we'll end up using them.
How about the online world? How can you take advantage of the technologies that we have? Because I know it's difficult when it comes to dance, right? But some people are doing it.
Yeah, and it's so in the online world, I mean, I teach at FIU, so like I'm having to use Zoom for teaching dance, using Zoom for lecture. I'm involved in a component of a artist connectivity series that's bringing together artists internationally, and those meetings are all done on Zoom. So like we're Zooming right now, so I use that platform for in supplement to like talking on the phone or emailing. But as far as like our digital presence, we've just been uploading like video content of past performances. We're going to be uploading clips from Reprise, which is one of the performances. It's the one that starts off with Hector and Yurka, and it was part of what I sent you earlier today. And so we'll be posting excerpts from that, but like the entire work. And then I'm also going to start like a weekly artist spotlight with just people in the collective, and we're going to call it A Slice with Pie, and just do it on Instagram Live, like very informal, but just an opportunity to get to know the performers that are in Birds of Paradise better. And yeah, I think really the most that I can do online would be just have more conversations like this, and being able to share past performances. But I'm not interested in putting my rehearsals online. It's just no. We tried that. Like we tried dancing together. It's just not. It's not the same. So.
I bet, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, and one other thing. I am positively impressed by the remarks that I have read from you when it comes to this time, when it comes to the topic of racial discrimination and diversity, and how do we promote within our circles, right? Better situations or better environment. And you're one of the few, I would say, white artists, or if I can call you like that I have seen engaging in these conversations that are not only for people of color, I think. What do you think as a Miamian, knowing how complex and how evident it is, let's say, intolerance when it comes to diversity, right? What can we do to make it better? What is your perspective on this? Knowing what we know about Miami, how we think, how we, have traditionally deal with this issue. What do you think?
I think we need to hold people accountable. We need to not get tired. It's there. Like you see it. Like in your immediate circles, there were a few days where you saw some black squares, a few reposts, um, uh, but it's not long lasting. And I think that you just have to be really honest with yourself about what are you doing within your own immediate circles. If you hear someone make a comment, are you willing to correct? Are you willing to, what about if, like, what if it's if they're in your family, are you willing to say something then? And people tend to compartmentalize their one way around their friends, and then they're another way at work, or they're another way with their family. But you can't compartmentalize race. You can't. It's you need to. Also, I think that would get really exhausting. Like jumping back and forth between. So I also think that I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I said to someone that the performers in my company, I care more about what they say than what my board of directors says. Like, I go to the performers with whom I collaborate for the advice, for the decision making, and then afterwards, like, I'll tell the board, like, hey, this is what we've decided. And I think for a lot of people, it's the reverse. I think a lot of people are way too afraid of authority, and which, I mean, like,
questioning what is not working.
Yeah.
Questioning what is not working.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always asked too many questions. I think it's.
I am the same.
But I mean, even. And I know a lot of companies are trying to become more inclusive, but it, like, I don't know, for me, it's always like, why did it take so long? And of course, like me, like, that shouldn't be something I'm saying. It, but it's still like, it stymies me why this wouldn't just be like, as a creative, we thrive from environments that unseat us and put us outside of ourselves, and remind us of that we are not the only thing, and so I just don't even understand how this is an issue in the artistic community, but it certainly is.
Well, it's that, for me, that's the evidence that it's systematic, that it's in our minds. We share kind of a common understanding about how things work, in which race and class are kind of goes together, and it's a habit, I think, a tradition of treating people a certain way because that's how things are, or how, it's supposed to be, without knowing, without being critical, I think, about what does that imply,
Yeah.
And I think it's a question of value too, because we are, we think that we attribute value to certain things that are comfortable to us, and then we don't want to go out of our comfort zone, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm also asking questions. I'm trying to give some explanations, but, that's all we can do, right? And interact and talk about these issues. I think we need sincerity, honesty, because we all have prejudice of different kinds, right? When we relate with each other. And I think also, as you said, the question of listening. We are so used to waiting for what the higher authorities are going to tell us, or how some people are thinking, in order to us address how we're going to react. No, why don't we listen? Why don't we promote conversations in which we listen to people that we never had a voice? And let's see what these people are saying, that are the ones that are really affected. Mm-hmm. And how can we change our policies? I know it's difficult, but it's necessary. It's so necessary. Because I don't think, like, the lack of diversity being something comfortable in which people think it's normal. There are so many cultural events still online in which everybody who has a voice is a white person. And I wonder why people feel so comfortable thinking that only white people are the ones who talk, who speak, who represent, who write, who publish. And then when a black person is doing it, it's just an exception, to the rule. I don't know. It's so weird for me, to realize these things that have always been there. But I am very appreciative of, people like you who, don't have any fear to talk and address, issues of uncomfortable issues. Why not? If not now, when are we going to do it?
Right. I mean, you can't. You can't do what we do and this not affect you. You can't. There's no way to be able to, like, as an artist, make yourself feel immune to all the bad shit that's happening. Like that's numbness, and that won't. The artists that are following that are not the ones that are going to be making anything that's worth looking at. Yeah, it's that equity and that understanding and that genuine interest in someone else. I mean, that's like the foundation for what my collective is about. There's like a genuine wanting to understand. There's a genuine opportunity to both speak as well as to listen, and for there to be a sense of, like, communal allyship, right? That there's and it's I think one of the weirdest things about this is that in the dance community, everybody's in such a rush to get back on stage. But I'm wondering whether or not that rush to get back on stage is to try and forget about what's happening off stage,
Absolutely.
And off stage needs to be right, so that's, even though COVID is scary, and I wish that things would get better, it definitely has created an opportunity for resistance to happen. It took away all the things that we are distracted by and made us focus on issues that have been, like, long overdue.
I was gonna ask you, let's put an example. How do you inform your work, let's say, with other cultures or ways of doing things, or other, information or reference that are not the traditional ones?
Well, other than me doing my own research and asking questions, it really is about the people that are in the room. So that's where we get that from. So you can approach a new dance so many different ways, right? And sometimes we'll approach it with a writing prompt, sometimes with some movement, sometimes with music, or with an exercise, something like a task that they have to do, or just a discussion. And sometimes the discussions end up being the best way for us to guide how we start, because we can, as a company, we of course are all focused on the same issues in a work, but we're all coming from them from very different perspectives. And so from the very beginning, I think you need to establish us all the as many perspectives as possible, or name as many perspectives as are available at that time, because also people's perspectives change as the work grows. We see new things, we make new associations. So there's, I think, with our rehearsal process, it's always welcomed to bring in new insights into the work. And the work is always open to disruption. It's always open to like drastic alterations. And I mean, it's necessary. I mean, you know, you can't expect a piece to live if it doesn't have growing pains, you know. So giving it the opportunity to be able to change a lot throughout, you know, an entire rehearsal into performance process is I guess that's how we accomplish that.
Something that we also talked, I remember once, was the part of the critic. I don't know how useful or not the dialogue with critic is for you. I bet it is, but in Miami in particular, don't you think that there's a need also to diversify and to make more efficient or more proactive the critics reviews when it comes to, you know, kind of your shows or local art, you know, emerging companies? Because I don't see the space where these discussions are taking place. Everybody says, oh, the head of this happened, this person was not there anymore, but it's about people, and it's not a systemic thing. I think for the development and the diversification that the arts is having in Miami in the last years, I honestly believe that we need more documentation. We need to know what's going on. A lot of people still talk about Miami as if we are in the 80s because they don't know what's going on. What are your takes on this?
You are absolutely correct. We need more documentation. We need more arts journalists, more critics. We need more writers that are interested in visiting rehearsal and having a conversation prior to seeing a performance. You know, we need more critics that are there to have discourse, to communicate the ethos of the work to the reader, but also have the ability to comment on it in a way that's informed. I mean, I've been very grateful to have had really good, you know, press and good writers, you know, and I've been very grateful to be able to have the opportunity sometimes to have like that real exchange where like the writer will come, but it's not very often. You know, I would say the average is for a critic or a journalist to like send me a list of questions and ask me to respond. But that only be the extent of our dialogue, because like I also work with people that do that, but we also like talk on the phone, and we have like and there's more to it. So I think that that yeah, there's an art to being a critic, and I think we need to remember that.
Yeah, and especially I think that to open up, because if the people who are documenting or making history are always the same people, what kind of history or what kind of documentation are we reading? You know, we
Right.
need to open up, I think, to different voices that can add perspective, right? To that help us appreciate your work, appreciate what you're doing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that
I
would
think,
be like that's a really good proposal. But I think I remember you telling me an idea that was similar to that, and I thought it was a great idea then. I still think it is now, that you would work with emerging journalists, and I still think that that idea, Dr. Eva, is still very much needed. So you
yeah,
know,
I'm flying these ideas because honestly, I'm a person that I think I want to do stuff, you know, and doing it by talking to people and knowing if what we're looking at is chair or not, if it's necessary or not. No, I know I'm not the only person who is looking at this thing, but I think there's a tradition
mm,
of not having certain things, of doing certain things in a certain way in Miami,
yeah,
specifically, that I really think is not helpful because Miami has changed so much in the
yeah,
last 20 years.
yeah,
The cultural scene has developed so much that we cannot even catch up,
mm,
right? To the amount of talent, and that's what really inspired me here. The amount of talent that is developing here by the day, you know, and
mm,
we are kind of. I think the institutions are 10 to percent the people that they know, and you know the same
yeah,
people, but you know they have to be. Miami is a boiling pot for me
yeah.
that you know, needs to be addressed. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you have to take risk. You have to be willing to be wrong. Um, and institutions, I think, become afraid of being wrong, afraid of taking risk, afraid of trying someone new because of a track record that someone else has, the safe thing, you know. Um, yeah, no, I definitely know what that feels like. So for myself, any opportunity I get, I try to make sure that I'm not just leaning towards people that I know, but am actually trying to seek people out. And I think that's what we need, is like a general a seeking, an interest, a genuine interest, you know, in knowing art and knowing artists and knowing each other. Um, and but so often it's a transactional thing where someone only really wants to know you if they're getting compensated for it.
That's it. And then yeah, I don't see a lot of genuine interest in. I know profession has changed, and journalism too, right?
Yeah,
And we have now technologies, and we can a lot of people can you know document themselves. But I know a lot of artists, the last thing that they're thinking about is documenting everything that they do because that's another layer you have to add to your work, right? We do it, but it's not easy.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Pioneer. It's always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
No, it was an honor. Thank you for having me.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, no, it's a pleasure. I wish you the best and,
Thank
you
you.
know, good luck with your projects and
Same
everything
to
in the
you.
future. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Bye. Ciao.